On the actual test, I am not going to make you physically graph these problems. It is simply going to state the asymptote, domain, and range. So all you have to do are these three things down here. Remember, you're allowed to have a note card for this test. I would definitely put an example of one of these on the note card so that you remember. The big thing is the asymptote. That really determines everything. So, do you remember what this +1 means? This means up 1. The asymptote was originally at 0, but if we move the whole graph up 1, that moves the asymptote to y equals 1. So our asymptote is at y equals 1 because the graph was moved up 1. The asymptote and the range are tied together. The range is either going to be y is greater than the asymptote or y is less than the asymptote. Greater than, less than is determined by if there's a flip in this graph. Do you see a negative in front of that 3? No, it's a positive. So if it's a positive in front, it's going to be y is greater than the asymptote. If it's a negative in front, it's going to be y is less than the asymptote. So in this case, y is greater than 1. Notice that the number is the same in both of those. And then the domain, that's the super easy part. All real numbers. Number 3 looks a little bit tricky because it has the E, but really it works exactly the same. So I want you to try number 3. Try number 3 on your own. Pause the video if you're watching the video. Give it a try. The +2 tells us that this graph moves up 2, so our asymptote is y equals 2. There's a positive in front of this function, so it's y is greater than 2 for the range, and our domain is all real numbers. So you might notice that I start with the asymptote and then work my way up to fill in the rest of them. Number 4 and number 8 are one question on the test. Basically, it just gives you one of them and asks you, is this growth or decay? In an E function, you determine growth or decay by looking at the exponent. A positive exponent indicates that it's exponential growth. A negative exponent indicates that it's exponential decay. So you may want to put something on your note card about, with E functions, positive exponent growth, negative exponent decay. On the test, you will have this formula bank. So the formulas will be given to you, but it will not explain to you when to use which formula. So that's what you need to know. That's what you need to potentially put on your note card. I'm going to call this first one equation A, the second one equation B, the third one equation C, and the fourth one equation D, or formula A, B, C, D. The first one is for simple growth. Formula B is for simple decay. Formula C is for compound interest. So if you see compounded quarterly, compounded monthly, compounded daily, compounded and then an LY term after it, that would be formula C. Formula D is also for compounded, but it's a specific type of compound interest. When you see the phrase compounded continuously, you use the PERT formula, formula D. So if you see compounded, it's either C or D. If you see the word continuously, it has to be D. So for each of these, we're going to look at them and decide, is this formula A, B, C, or D, and why? And then a quick little how to throw it into the formula. We're not going to fully calculate it and get the answers. I'm just going to get you started on each one. So number 12, the population of 350 deer in a forest increases at an annual rate of 7%. Do you see the word compounded? So it is not C or D. A is growth, B is decay. They're increasing. This has to be growth. This has to be formula A. So our starting amount is 350. 1 plus, what is 7% written as a decimal? 0.07 raised to the t. Now, I starred number 12 because there is a problem just like number 12 on the test where it will say y equals, and you need to type in this model using t. Then in number 13, it's going to ask you, after 6 years, what is the population of deer in the forest? So that's when you would actually plug this into your calculator and get a number that you would then round, I think, to the nearest whole. You deposit $3,500 into an account that earns 2.5% interest. I don't want that. Find the balance after 1 year if the interest is compounded with the given frequency monthly. And the fact that I starred the one that says monthly and not the one that says quarterly can probably help you to guess what the one on the test is going to be. Maybe, possibly, hint, hint, wink, wink. I do see the word compounded. Compounded means it's formula C or D, but I do not see continuously, so it must be formula C. So we have our starting amount, 3,500. 1 plus, we need our interest rate written as a decimal. What is 2.5% as a decimal? 0.025. On your note card, you may want to make yourself a little chart that has percent and decimal with a couple of examples so that you can see how to do these. So 2.5% is 0.025, whereas 7% from the previous problem was 0.07. If we have something like, say 25%, what would that be as a decimal? 0.25. So you may want to give yourself a couple of different scenarios so that you can see how to go back and forth between them. One of the biggest mistakes that I see on this test is people not switching between decimal and percent correctly. So 1 plus 0.025 divided by n. N comes from the monthly, so that's 12. Raised to the nt, 12 times the number of years. In this case, it is 1 year. It will not be 1 year on the test. It will be something like, I don't know, 10 maybe? Possibly. You know. And then you just plug and chug. I would recommend you punch this into your calculator, write your answer down. Punch it into your calculator again. If you get the same number again, go with your answer. If you get a different number, plug it in again or ask for help entering it to make sure that you're not just hitting wrong buttons or fat fingering anything. I will put an answer key for this up in Schoology, so after you've actually done each of these and gotten a number, you can check to make sure that you are getting the correct number, which should mean that you know how to enter it in your calculator. Number 16 and 17 and 19. This is one question on the test. It's like an ABC on the test. This time, the formula is already done for you. It is an E formula. They're asking, is the population increasing or decreasing? With E, if the exponent is positive, it's increasing. If the exponent is negative, it's decreasing. So our exponent is positive. That means the population is increasing. Number 17 is basically asking, it's increasing by what percent? Our decimal is 0.0128. I don't think I put one quite that challenging on the test. That's the decimal. We don't want the decimal, we want the percent. That is 1.28%. You may also, in this little chart that you make, you might want to write percent divided by 100 gives you the decimal. The decimal times 100 gives you the percent. Then on the test, it used to say estimate the population now. Now would be 2020. I'm going to change that, or 2022. I'm going to change that to give you a specific date. So let's say 2020. Estimate the population in 2020. This model started in 1990. So you take whatever year they give you minus 1990, and that's going to give you what you want to use for T. So we are using 30 for T. You would just plug that in there. So 10,816,591. Your E button, make sure you know how to use your E button on your calculator. Raised to the 0.0128 times 30. No, it's not my phone number. It's an interesting observation. You buy a new car for $22,500. It depreciates 25%. Depreciates is another word for decreases. I don't see compounded anywhere in here, so it has to be A or B, and B is the one that deals with decreasing. And on the test, it doesn't ask you to write a model. It just asks you, what is the value of the car after however many years? So our starting amount, $22,500. The formula says 1 minus 25% as a decimal is 0.25 raised to 3 years. Plug that in and write down your answer. Don't forget you need to put your answer with a $sign and round correctly. You deposit $2,000 into an account that pays 4% annual interest compounded continuously. Keyword continuously. Which formula do we use for continuously? The PERT formula, which we wrote down as formula D. So we have $2,000 times E. Our interest is 4%. That's 0.04. And the number of years is 5. Make sure that 0.04 times 5 is in the exponent. On your calculators, you'd want to make sure that there's parentheses around those. Plug that in. Make sure you write your answer with a $sign and then round to 2 places after the decimal. This last one is actually a multiple choice question on the test. A farmer starts her farm with 120 cattle, blah, 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 increased 6% each year. What's the population in 10 years? I don't see the word compounded anywhere in there, so I'm not going to use C or D. A is increasing, B is decreasing. We're definitely increasing, so we're going to use formula A. So 120 cattle, 1 plus 6% written as a decimal, 0.06, raised to the 10 years. Plug that into your calculator and round. It should tell you on the test how to round. If it doesn't tell you, then you can round however you want to and it'll accept it. This one's a multiple choice, so there's only whole number answers, so you obviously would round to a whole number.